One early morning in October, the world's intelligence community awoke to a storm. From Washington, D.C., a sealed indictment, hundreds of pages thick, was unsealed, its revelations striking like thunder across the global underworld. The name on every headline, Chen Zhi, also known as Tran Tri, the elusive mastermind behind a sprawling transnational criminal empire that stretched from Cambodia to Singapore, from London to New York, and deep into the dark web of the modern financial world. Major outlets broke the story at once. Reuters called it the largest coordinated strike ever launched against a Southeast Asian digital crime syndicate. In London, dozens of bank accounts were frozen overnight. In Hong Kong, a private financial office was sealed off before dawn, and in Phnom Penh, a white villa on the shores of Lake Tonle Sap was suddenly surrounded by hundreds of international agents. Inside, the air was cold, still. A leather chair remained warm, marked by the faint impression of someone who had just been there. Chen Zhi was gone. No one knew where he went, but everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Americans called it Operation White Web, an international effort to dismantle the shadow network manipulating the world's digital economy. And as classified documents slowly surfaced, a terrifying truth emerged. Behind the layers of scam websites, online casinos, and encrypted data centers was a machine of power, intricate, disciplined, and invisible. A hidden nation, one without borders, without flags, and Chen Zhi was its president. To understand who he was, and how he built a kingdom out of smoke and code, one must go back nearly 2 decades to the humid border between China and Cambodia in the summer of 2004. There, in a small riverside village along the Mekong, under monsoon rains that blurred the line between two countries, Chen Zhi was born, the mixed-race son of a Chinese trader and a poor Khmer weaver. His father, Tran Guomin, was a notorious border smuggler, running goods from Guangzhou to Phnom Penh in exchange for timber, gems, and anything that could turn a profit. His mother, Sofa, was a village girl who believed love could conquer borders. On their wedding day, the whole village gathered around a single rusty loudspeaker playing a warped Chinese love song. Sofa's eyes shone with hope. She had no idea that the child she carried would one day erase every border he could find. Not through love, but through domination. From the start, Chen Zhi was different. He spoke Mandarin with a Beijing accent, Khmer with local slang, and picked up fragments of English from a battered UN radio. Villagers called him the child of two worlds. He would later realize that meant he belonged to neither. At 12, his father was arrested in a border raid. Overnight, the family lost everything. By 13, Chen Zhi was working at Phnom Penh's night markets, then drifting into the city's underground money exchange scene. There, he learned 3 truths that would define his life. 1. Money has no nationality. 2. Power lives not in guns, but in information. 3. Whoever controls the flow of money controls the world. By 20, he had built a small empire of pawn shops and gold exchanges, a web of shadowy routes moving cash between Thailand, China, and Cambodia. Then by chance, he met Lau Kin Hua, a programmer from Macau, a man who once coded for online casinos. That meeting, nobody knew then, would open the gate to a digital empire, a world of invisible currencies, encrypted ledgers, and faceless transactions. The poor mixed-blood boy began to disappear. In his place rose a man in tailored suits, fluent in charm and silence, walking seamlessly between the physical and digital worlds. By 2010, Chen Zhi was on business magazines' Young Entrepreneurs of Cambodia lists, but behind his polished smile and corporate titles, he was constructing one of Southeast Asia's most sophisticated money laundering systems. He understood a simple principle: to hide a crime, make it look like a business. So he built his trinity of fronts: Phoenix Tech, a cybersecurity company; Golden River Group, an online casino network registered in the Philippines; White Lotus Capital, a venture fund investing in Asian startups. 3 names, 3 masks, all part of one perfect machine. Dirty money flowed in from scams, gambling, and black credit. It passed through shell accounts, re-emerged as clean investments, and returned as legal profits. A flawless circle. No leaks, no witnesses. As Chen Zhi once toasted at a Macau banquet, "Why hide in the shadows when you can own the light?" When most businesses in Cambodia still dealt in cash, Chen Zhi went digital. launching his own cryptocurrency, hiring Chinese programmers, and building private data centers in Sihanoukville. Every night, millions of transactions pulsed through thousands of fake IPs, impossible to trace. By 2015, he controlled over $3 billion in assets. His fingerprints appeared everywhere, from Sihanoukville to Singapore, Bangkok to Dubai. To criminals, he was the ghost. To financiers, the pioneer in the dark. To his victims, simply the digital devil. But the most chilling truth was that he was never alone. Behind Chen Zhi stood a secret circle, tycoons, ministers, and power brokers who protected him in exchange for profit. This was no longer one man's empire. It was an alliance, a silent confederacy of power and greed. When an empire grows large enough to swallow the system meant to police it, the man behind it no longer needs to hide. He simply steps into the spotlight, wearing a tailored suit, shaking hands, and smiling for the cameras. And so, by 2016, Phnom Penh's elite whispered of a new syndicate, the Golden Union, a coalition of young investors, tech magnates, and philanthropists. They hosted conferences, donated to charity, funded election campaigns. But beneath the glittering surface, their real business thrived in the dark. Politics, law enforcement, gambling, and global finance. At the heart of it all sat Chen Zhi. He knew money was only safe when guarded by power. So he didn't evade governments. He bought them. At private dinners, he said little. He smiled, listened, and signed checks. And while others drank, he built an empire that would one day shake the world. A former employee of Golden River once confessed, "I saw Chen Zhi shake hands with a cabinet minister right in the middle of the casino floor. They did not speak a single word. But from that moment, I knew every investigation against us would vanish." Each official, each general, was marked with a small share of profit, like an invisible ring of loyalty. They became guardians of his empire, not with guns, but with government seals. Chen Zhi's reach stretched far beyond Cambodia. His influence snaked through Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, even the Philippines. He opened data centers disguised as tech firms, created shell companies, and signed joint ventures with international corporations. On paper, everything was legal, but behind the glass walls, thousands of cyber criminals were manipulating the region's financial systems. The world shuddered when it realized Chen Zhi's name appeared nowhere. Every transaction, every company, every deal, controlled through proxies, businessmen, lawyers, and even government advisors. They all knew who he was, yet none dared to speak his name. An internal Interpol memo later recorded a chilling line. Chen Zhi has turned governments into his fortress. From a poor mixed-race boy, he had become untouchable. A chairman without a throne, ruling an invisible nation where laws were traded like currency, and justice belonged only to those who could afford it. But even in darkness, there is always a flicker of light. A small group, 3 people bound by loss and conviction, began to gather evidence. They called themselves the Silent Witness. They were not police, not spies, just ordinary people who refused to look away. Soka was a programmer once employed at Phoenix Tech's data center. He had uncovered thousands of phantom transactions, digital ghosts, until one day his access vanished and his employment was terminated. Natalie, a French-Vietnamese journalist, had been investigating human trafficking and money laundering across Southeast Asia. Her best friend disappeared in Sihanoukville, a case the police labeled missing without trace. Natalie knew Chen Zhi was behind it. Li Wei, a former accountant for White Lotus Capital, had watched billions of dollars cleaned with a few keystrokes. He fled with a 32-gigabyte drive, his Book of Shadows, a complete record of Chen Zhi's empire. The 3 met in silence, connected through the Tor network, and began to map what others could not see. What they uncovered shocked even Interpol. Chen Zhi's system spanned over 170 shell companies across 12 nations, using more than 500 bank accounts and 3 layers of encryption to obscure the money's path. Each layer mirrored the next, creating an endless labyrinth of deception. "This isn't crime," Natalie wrote in her journal. "This is a digital empire with its own army, its own laws, and its own government inside the government." But soon they realized they were being hunted. One night, as Soka logged in, a message flickered across his screen. "I know who you are. Stop playing with fire." The next day, an unmarked car idled outside Natalie's apartment for hours. Li Wei's phone was hacked, his email wiped clean. Silence grew thick around them, like fog before a storm. Still, they did not stop, because in their hands was a list of 27 powerful figures connected to Chen Zhi, including one name that froze their blood, a senior diplomat from the United States. "We're fighting a hydra," Soka said quietly, "and every head can kill us before dawn." Yet they knew, if they stopped now, no one else would ever dare. So the silent witness moved to the final phase, infiltration. Their target, Phoenix Tech's data center in Sihanoukville, a suicide mission. But if they succeeded, they would expose the entire Shadow Empire. 2:47 a.m. The wind from the Gulf of Thailand cut through the silence. Above, the sky was moonless. Below, 3 shadows moved across the industrial complex, toward the glass tower that rose like a steel fortress of the digital age. The Phoenix Tech building was protected by thermal sensors, AI cameras, fingerprint locks, and magnetic ID gates. But Soka knew its weak points. He had helped build them. They slipped through a maintenance exit, down a dim corridor that smelled of oil and ozone. 3 minutes before the next scan, Soka whispered. They reached a steel door labeled Data Core. High-level access only. Li Wei pulled out a small black USB drive with an AES decryption chip. His key to hell, he once called it. As the lock light turned green, a sharp beep broke the silence. Warning, unauthorized access detected. Red lights flashed, sirens screamed. The building came alive. "No time!" Natalie shouted. "Download everything, now!" Soka jammed in the USB, lines of code cascading like rain. File after file poured in. Financial reports, anonymous accounts, secret transfers, and names. Hundreds of them. Then, a folder appeared. Black Lotus, Master List. Inside, the entire blueprint of Chen Zhi's empire. Banks, shell firms, data centers, and dozens of politicians, generals, and intelligence officers across the world. It was a map of power itself, and they knew, if even a fraction of it saw daylight, the empire of Chen Zhi would fall, like a chain of dominoes, one truth toppling the next. The download bar froze at 98%. Then a voice echoed through the intercom, calm, low, and metallic. "I warned you, Soka." Chen Zhi. His voice was smooth as glass and cold as forged steel. "You were my best," he said. "What a shame." The steel doors slammed shut, alarms blared. From somewhere deep in the corridor, the rhythmic pounding of boots grew louder. Security teams moving fast, weapons drawn. Li Wei pulled out his phone, his hands trembling. "I'll hold them off. You two run." "No! We stay tug." Natalie's words were swallowed by an explosion. A wall of smoke burst through the room. The lights flickered, systems crackled, sparks rained from the ceiling. Soka saw Li Wei's silhouette stumble behind a row of servers before fire engulfed him. The USB drive, still clenched in his hand, flashed one last green light. Data complete. Soka grabbed Natalie and ran. Behind them, the Phoenix Tech building erupted into a column of fire that tore through the night. Flames devoured glass and steel alike, as if the empire itself had chosen to burn with its secrets. By the time they reached the edge of the industrial zone, the inferno roared like a living creature. The brain of Chen Zhi's empire, Phoenix Tech, was gone. But the data had already escaped. Thousands of miles away, in a dim office at Interpol headquarters in Lyon, a new email appeared in the cyber forensics inbox. No sender, no trace. Subject line: Black Lotus, open your eyes. The investigators exchanged wary glances before opening the file. The screen flared to life, revealing directories filled with encrypted data, each folder labeled with the precision of a corporate archive. Company names, bank accounts, offshore funds. Dozens of jurisdictions: Hong Kong, the Cayman Islands, London, Singapore, Luxembourg, all branching from one root. Chen Jiasheng, known to the underworld as Chen Zhi. For years, he had been a ghost, whispered about, never seen. Now his entire empire was mapped in front of them. One investigator murmured, "This isn't money laundering. This is a restructuring of global power." As they dug deeper, they found evidence of political payoffs, millions transferred from fake corporations into accounts owned by judges, generals, even ministers. Each transaction bore a strange signature. Lotus Wine D, Level 7. Access. Only Chen Zhi's inner circle could have known those codes. Then came the darker folders, images and videos recorded inside compounds in Cambodia, facilities disguised as online gaming companies. The footage showed prisoners forced to work around the clock, beaten if they faltered. Some files were medical reports, others were death records. Every act of cruelty meticulously catalogued, evil kept in spreadsheets. One analyst whispered, "If this is real, we're holding evidence for the largest transnational crime case in 20 years. The head of the cybercrime unit, Director Reynolds, didn't look up. His voice was low. "If this is real, it means we've just touched the serpent's skin." That same night, Interpol called an emergency meeting with Europol and the FBI. On a massive screen, money trails glowed like veins through a digital body, stretching from Phnom Penh to Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, Malta, and Zurich. Each node pulsed red. Each node was a front for Black Lotus. It was no longer just a network. It was an organism, feeding on money, power, and fear. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, inside a penthouse atop a luxury hotel in Bangkok, Chen Zhi raised his glass of red wine. Around him, men in dark suits laughed softly, unaware that the empire beneath them was bleeding. He set the glass down, his expression unreadable. "From now on," he said to his bodyguard, "all international channels go dark. Tell them Phoenix Tech is undergoing system maintenance." Outside, Bangkok shimmered with light. Inside, his reflection on the window was pale, hollow, and still. The Empire's heart had stopped beating, and he didn't yet know it. Back in Lyon, Interpol analysts kept digging. One final file surfaced, a 17-second video. A masked man, speaking in Khmer, looked directly into the camera. "Do not trust your governments," he said. "Chen Zhi already owns them." A loud knock against the camera, then darkness. Silence fell over the room. Every agent understood what it meant. This was no longer just a criminal case. It was a shadow war between truth and oblivion. One mistake, one leak, and the world would go blind forever. Days later, in Hong Kong, at the top floor of the Intercontinental Tower, a dozen officials from Interpol, Europol, and the FBI gathered behind drawn curtains. The air was thick with tension. On the table before them, a holographic map pulsed, lines of capital, data, and power converging on a single name glowing red. Chen Jiasheng, Network Nexus. A Europol analyst stood up. "He's not laundering money. He's rewriting the financial algorithm of the underground economy. Crypto assets, shell equities, synthetic bonds, it's all interconnected." Director Reynolds stared at the map. "We're not chasing a man," he said. "We're chasing an architecture. To bring him down, we'll have to dismantle the system he built inside ours." They called it Operation Black Code, its name taken from Chen Zhi's own creation, Black Lotus. 5 task forces were assembled. One would trace the money, another would shadow Chen Zhi's movements, a third would infiltrate his financial intermediaries, a fourth would track crypto transfers, and the fifth, the most dangerous, was codenamed Echo. Their mission, to go into the field in Cambodia, where the empire was born. And while governments moved their pieces across the board, Chen Zhi watched from his hidden sanctuary, calm, methodical, untouchable. Phoenix Tech had burned, but his data lived on, migrated to a new facility known only as Crystal Bay, a data haven floating somewhere in an offshore economic zone. A ghost empire reborn in the digital sea, waiting, silent, and watching. He knew Interpol would soon make its move. What he did not know was that one of his most trusted advisors, the one known only by the codename K2, had already betrayed him. K2 had once been the invisible guardian of Chen Zhi's empire, a cybersecurity engineer who built walls no one could breach. Now, he was the one opening the gates from within. That night, a private message flashed across Chen Zhi's encrypted terminal. "Someone's tracing your internal IP. Source, Phnom Penh." His eyes narrowed. Within seconds, he ordered a full lockdown. The entire Crystal Bay network sank into digital silence, vanishing from the grid. But it was too late. On the other side of the web, the Echo team had already captured a small fragment of system logs, and buried inside was the coordinate of a man-made island suspected to be Chen Zhi's new command center. In the heart of Phnom Penh, a secret meeting was convened. Interpol agents and Cambodian special forces crowded around a holographic map, the air thick with tension. "This is our window," one officer said. "If this island is real, we're staring straight at the heart of the Black Lotus Empire." When the meeting ended, Director Reynolds lingered by the window. The lights of Hong Kong shimmered across the dark waves like a fractured mirror. His voice was low, almost a confession. "No one knows what he's done to the people trapped inside those complexes. But if we wait any longer, there may be no one left to save." Far out at sea, under a moonless sky, the artificial island of Crystal Bay floated like a silent monolith of black steel. Inside, Chen Zhi stood before a wall of glowing monitors, every screen alive with maps, data streams, and the faint signatures of those hunting him. He smiled, cold and deliberate. "You want to hunt the serpent in its own nest?" he murmured. "Then let the game begin." His fingers danced over the keyboard. Lines of code flared to life. Miles away, echo signals began to distort. The chase between shadow and justice had entered its final act. Captain Marlin, a former MI6 operative, led the strike team. "Once we hit the perimeter, satellite feed will drop," he said through his comms. "We switch to local frequencies. 15 minutes before the system flags us. After that, we're ghosts." From a distance, Crystal Bay loomed like a fortress adrift on the sea, encircled by submerged defense towers and invisible mines. Scanners swept the waves in rhythmic arcs of light. It was not an island, it was a kingdom. And Chen Zhi, its unchallenged sovereign. The team made landfall at the western platform. The ocean roared against steel. Wind howled like a chorus of lost souls. They moved in silence through rows of abandoned containers, each one crammed with servers, wires, and screens humming faintly in the dark. "Jesus," one soldier whispered. "It's a goddamn city of data." They reached the core chamber. A massive steel door stood before them, sealed with the mark of a black lotus. Marlin raised his hand. 2 agents placed shaped charges, a flash, then the door exploded inward. Inside, the command center pulsed with a mechanical heartbeat. Screens flickered with streams of encrypted code, and on the largest monitor appeared a pre-recorded image of Chen Zhi, dressed in white, calm, unreadable. "Welcome to Crystal Bay," his voice echoed. "If you're hearing this, I've already moved on." The room fell silent as the screens shifted. One by one, they displayed footage of human suffering, men and women enslaved in hidden compounds, forced to labor, beaten into silence. Below the images, a single question appeared in white text. "You seek justice, but whose justice?" Then the alarm began to wail. A deep, rhythmic thrum filled the chamber, the heartbeat of the island itself. On the map, red dots began to blink. Explosives. "He's triggered a self-destruct," Marlin shouted. "Evacuate now!" But just before retreating, they spotted something, a small room behind reinforced glass. Inside sat a boy, no more than 12, bound to a chair, his head wired into the central server. Streams of data pulsed through his body. "Oh my God," whispered an agent. "He's using a human brain as a living encryption key." Without hesitation, Marlin stormed in, cut the cables, and lifted the unconscious child into his arms. The system began its countdown. 10, 9, 8. They ran through corridors engulfed in fire and smoke. The boy stirred, his voice trembling in Khmer. "He's still here, inside the network." The helicopter lifted just as the first explosion tore through Crystal Bay. Flames swallowed the island. The sea boiled beneath, glowing red like molten blood. From above, Marlin watched the steel fortress collapse into the waves. He clutched a small hard drive, the last fragment he'd snatched from the servers. Inside it lay either the key to exposing Chen Zhi's empire or the doorway he wanted them to open. As the data drive flickered in his hand, a final message appeared before the system shut down forever. "You may destroy my empire, but never its will." No one ever found Chen Zhi's body, but across the dark web, fragments of his voice still surfaced, ghostly, disembodied, whispering through abandoned servers. Some say he's dead, others believe he became what he always wanted to be, a phantom living inside the network, waiting to rise again.